It was in 2005. No other race had happened since November. Everyone was looking forward to it. Hendrick Motorsports had repackaged their entire super speedway package, or however you want to say that.
That's how I was it.
One way or the other, you are now watching Speedway Nostalgia. Good morning, good afternoon, wherever you are. I'm Josh.
I'm Caleb.
And we are covering the 2005 Budweiser Shootout. Not the Bud Shootout. It actually literally changed the name from the early 2000s into the later 2000s. But it went from, of course, everybody knew, the Busch Clash, and then the Bud Shootout. They actually extended the name to Budweiser Shootout to, obviously, you have the Clash now. This was at Daytona, where it's always belonged, where it still belongs, and quite frankly, where it's always going to belong. What do you think?
I completely agree with you. I definitely wish this race was still at Daytona. I love having the whole Speed Week staying at Daytona. It just brings a lot more energy to the 500.
One thing I loved about it, one is yes, so not the we're gonna have the shootout, or we're gonna have the clash, and I don't mind the clash. I mean, I think the clash. I mean, that's traditionally that's what it was known as. It's just that early 2000s era was the shootout, but it wasn't. Let's have the clash. Now let's wait a week or 2 weeks, and then we'll give them a little taste, and then we'll do. And I understand, you're competing with Super Bowl time and stuff like that, but there was something special about Speed Weeks. And the Bud Shootout launched Speed Week. And in this year, 2005, it was a kind of a special year, mostly because this was somebody's last year. It ended up going to be two people's last year, with Mark Martin also announcing retirement. Mark Martin will later come out of retirement, but one last call, Rusty Wallace, and that's today's featured diecast also, is Rusty's last call. Okay, this car was ran at the 2005 Bud Shootout. Okay, this was another one I got off auction at Motorsport Auction, presented by Circle B Diecast. Hashtag
not sponsors.
Thank you. And what was special about this car? I mean, look at it. I mean, it's actually really cool.
It's a sweet looking car.
The detail with the checkered flag going down the side, and it was kind of a step away from the Blue Deuce that everybody was known for, Rusty driving for so long. But this was kind of a mix, between the two. But man, that last call logo is just it's just awesome. And again, just I really enjoy getting these cars. It's a flashback to my childhood and being able to collect these. I don't know if you guys remember, for a long time there was a show that come on QVC called For Race Fans Only. And I would get so psyched up. I think it was either on a Friday night or maybe a Saturday, but I'm almost positive it was Friday nights. But the host, I can't remember his name. It's on the tip of my tongue. And sometimes they would feature a driver on there, but they would do these diecasts and everything. I would sit and just watch it. NASCAR was that big that not only was it, rocking the sports world, rocking the racing world, but it was rocking QVC. If anybody even remembers those days, and QVC shopping is what we call, Amazon shopping nowadays. So, but this car was a very special car. He ran that a few times during the year. Actually, Caleb and I was going back and forth earlier today on when he actually ran them. Some of the research showed the 2005 Ford 400 at Homestead, but after going back and looking at that, I didn't see where he was driving that car. So maybe in the comments can correct me, and maybe I'm mixing it up. But it was also Bristol that year as well. But just an awesome, awesome car that he ran to wrap up a great career.
Yeah, his 25-year career was pretty dominant. Unfortunately, he wasn't able to get a win in this last season. But yeah, I completely agree with how great the car looked and how special it was.
Well, talk about Rusty all we want. And like I said, he didn't win this race. He ended up 14th at the end of this race, but still a solid run from Rusty Wallace. And just to, like I said, to wrap up not just a great career, but a championship career. Dale Jr., of course, super speedways, Daytona, Talladega. I mean, that's, that was DEI specialty. And, Hendrick Motorsports had kind of rechanged their super speedway package this year, and they were going to be really good at the super speedways this year. But DEI, they had everybody's number when it comes to the super speedways.
Yeah, just watching obviously 2001 when Michael Waltrip with the win, Dale Jr. coming up second. And then throughout, I guess, coming up to 2005, you can see their dominance. Obviously, our last race that we covered, Dale Jr. in 2001 with the EA Sports 500 win, just seeing how good they were, just, running in the pack up front and, just seeing their dominance throughout the years was pretty cool.
Well, the 3 shootouts prior to this one, Junior finished second, first, and second. So obviously a strong run at Daytona, which Junior was always known for running strong. Dale Earnhardt was always known for running strong.
Yep.
DEI was known for running strong, but he was the only DEI car in this race. That was another thing that I loved about the shootout rules. Now, everybody didn't get to start just for the sake of you're on the schedule and you're on the circuit. You had to earn that thing. And the only way you're going to do it is you had to win a pole award the year before, or you had to be a prior winner of the shootout or the clash, which also brought on Bill Elliott ran this race in a throwback. He did throwbacks very seldom, but this was when he was doing a throwback before throwbacks were cool.
Yeah, the throwback was amazing of that Coors Light Ford
1985.
Yep. That was a really cool car to see on the track.
It was a number 39 car, so he didn't get to sport that number 9 car. Casey Kane was running that one, but and then Jeffrey Bodine, also a previous winner of the shootout, he got to start this race. Jeff Gordon, 2-time winner leading up to this point. He was a 94 and 97 winner, and of course he was going to really play a big role at the end of this race. Dale Jarrett, a 3-time winner. He was actually battling the flu before starting this race. 48 years old, still pushing hard.
And these are on the pole.
And these guys were tough. And as he started the race, yes, he started out strong, but then he was no match for who I think was the best car of the entire race. That number 16, Greg Biffle. And of course, when you talk about Greg Biffle nowadays, it's a completely different story, a very sad ending for Greg Biffle. But back in these days, he was running strong, and this was actually at 35 years old. This was his first Bud shootout, and he was taking no prisoners. There was 3 other first shootout runners on this one. Casey Kane was one of them. Brian Vickers was the other one, and then Casey Mears was the 4th first-time starter here. But Greg Biffle, man, he was a force to be reckoned with that entire race, but at least, well, the first segment of the race, and we'll get into the segments and everything here shortly, but that first segment and then up until that first green flag pit stop, he was just a force to be reckoned with.
Yeah, Biffle actually led a total of 44 laps, but for somebody's first Bud shootout, that was really strong. Like Tony Stewart said, he did a great job keeping up with everybody and just leading most of this race for 70 laps total. But yeah, I completely agree with you. Biffle was a strong driver in this race.
Well, I still get cracked up at hearing DW's boogity boogity boogity. One thing though that was never really noted, the boogity 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 really took off. But Larry McReynolds always added to that. But you don't hear a lot of people talk about that a whole lot these days. But he would say, reach up and pull those belts tight one more time.
Yeah, hearing that just got people excited watching it on TV, and I still wish that was around now. But I don't know. I loved watching these old races. The commentary in the booth was really fun to listen to.
This past week at Darlington, and I know we don't really cover a lot of current things right now, but him go, just hearing him do that boogity boogity boogity, and I was listening to so Larry McReynolds has a show on NASCAR radio, and he was talking about just how much that meant to him being able to be in the Fox booth with Darrell again at Darlington.
And it's cool to see those guys together.
And I tell you, now in the hair, yeah, you can see where age is there, but in the face, I don't think DW ages very much. He still looks just about as young as he was back in these days. On lap 6, though, Dale Jarrett started falling back. He was actually known to do this at the super speedways. In fact, later this year at Talladega in 2005, he stayed in the very back, and he, out of nowhere on the last 2 laps, he pops up out of nowhere, goes on to win at Talladega in the fall race that year. That's where it's on the last lap, it's just the 2 of you.
Yep.
That was a great spotter. That was one of your favorite quotes.
Definitely. And Tony Stewart too was known for just kind of hanging out in the back, and I feel like that's a great way to be, especially at super speedway. It's
Mhm.
just kind of staying out of that trouble. But yeah, I think it's cool. Dale Jarrett, that was his thing to do at super speedways.
Uh-huh. So again, and you're probably right now as you're watching, you're seeing where Bill Elliott was running that 39 car, and
Yeah.
DW talked to him for a moment. If you want to, just kind of enjoy this little segment where DW and Bill Elliott kind of go down memory lane for a moment.
Great job you got there, buddy. That brings back a lot of good memories as you got the performance tonight.
I hope I can bring back a little of that magic from '85. The only thing I miss out here is having you to talk to like I did in '85.
Yeah, roger that. I was trying to help you, buddy. Your car looked good in practice. Do you think you can suck it up there and stay up front?
We'll have this first 20 laps to kind of see how things play out. Then we still got another 50. Hamlin's going to play a big part of it. See if we can get this Coors, do some good with this Coors car.
Well, it's good to see you out there, my man, and the car looks great. Good luck to you, Bill.
DW.
Well, let's get some late updates from pit road.
And I said this last week about Talladega back in the early 2000s. The pack racing at the super speedways back then. I mean, you would get 4 to 7 cars single file, and they would split from that pack.
Mm-hmm.
And you would have, on a race like this, you'd have 2 packs. You'd have that first pack, but then you'd have everybody bunched up in that second pack. A lot of times, if it was a full field, you'd have, sometimes that third rear pack.
Yeah.
And you always knew that third rear pack was always the guys that were purposely kind of hanging back,
Mhm.
kind of like Dale Jarrett and Tony Stewart.
Yeah,
doing
you
this
you
one.
definitely couldn't count them out because you knew, okay, those guys are going to find their way up with a few laps to go or 10 to go. And I think it's so cool to watch them just climb to the field because nowadays you can you will never see that happen. And I think it's cool to watch that. But yeah, I love the whole pack racing at super speedways.
Lap 13, Dale Jr. falls to the rear. He's going to lose the draft, and he was talking about how he felt like he was losing a spark plug, and he started worrying. And at one point, he called the car junk.
Yeah, which is kind of funny to hear him say. Which I guess where he's coming from at the beginning, his car definitely wasn't what everybody thought it would be, but that car came back. I mean, he did.
All right, so in these segments now, we would talk about, we talked earlier about the segments, kind of go over what the segments look like back in this particular race.
Yeah, so there was 2 segments. There was the first segment was 20 laps, and after those 20 laps, you would have a 10-minute intermission. That's for pit stops, doing any adjustments to your cars, and obviously there was a couple guys doing it like Dale Jr. Then after that 10-minute intermission, there was a 50-lap segment, and that would be the end of the race. So
With let's say with 2 laps to go, Mark Martin, he starts having tire issues, and he starts slowing. He's wanting to preserve the tire. It ended up being the left rear tire, and he's slowing down. And basically, his goal is, I got to get to pit road. I don't want to go to pit road with 2 laps to go. I don't want to start the next segment a lap down. So Dale Jr., he's in survival mode at this point.
yeah,
He's trying to hold on to the engine, hoping nothing blows up. It looked like he was running on just, like I said, I think he was down a cylinder is what it looked. And then during the pit stops, that's actually what ended up showing is they pulled out all 8 spark plugs. All of them was burnt except one. One was solid white. So he's definitely, firing on just 7 cylinders out of the 8. And then Mark Martin, he's just holding on to the car. And at one point, you actually see him start wiggling the wheels. And he's getting loose and he's trying to just hold on to the car. Very smart, which when it comes to racing, you didn't see smart racing like you did from Mark Martin. Mark Martin was just a very wise race car driver. And, I know the debate, he never won a championship and things like that. But Mark Martin's style of racing was just cool.
Yeah, it was respectable. I feel like all the drivers respected him out there because he respected you back on the racetrack. He wasn't gonna wreck you for the win or anything like that. And I completely agree with how smart he was during the race.
Yes, he was very, very smart. I wouldn't even classify him as aggressive. Now, there's a few races I see Mark Martin get a little aggressive where, actually last year we talked a lot about we wish Chase Elliott would get a little more aggressive. If he started showing more aggression. Mark Martin was the type of guy on the racetrack. he could scream at you and cuss you out and never say a cuss word, never raise his voice. I mean, he was just that type of guy. And again, his race style, it wasn't aggressive, it was smart.
Yeah.
He was just very smart.
Mm-hmm.
If I guess, when you talk about the way some people drove, some people you'd say unethical or aggressive or unorthodox. If I had to describe Martin's driving, for me personally, it's just my opinion, it was smart.
Mm-hmm.
He was a very smart race car driver. But the segment's going to end. And of course, when the segment ends, everybody's going to come to pit road.
Mm-hmm.
And when they come to pit road, they came guns a-blazing. It was not just let's pull into pit road there. I mean, it was, and I take that back, and I'm sorry. I completely botched that. I'm sorry, guys. This was during the green flag pit stops. But after that segment, everybody slowed down. They did not come flying guns a-blazing on this one, but you'll see here just a little bit when they do. We'll talk about that here momentarily. There's a little hook for you guys right there. Segment ends. Martin holds on to it. He's just kind of coasting. He said that on his radio, he said that the car vibrated really bad when he was in neutral, and it turned out there was some tire rub. It looked like somebody at some point had gotten into him a little bit, but there was some tire rub, and of course the crew fixed that, and he was good to go at that point. But you get the pit stops, and Junior's car gets fixed. Everybody's somewhat happy with their cars. Jimmy Johnson's complaining about his being tight. Mm-hmm. Tony Stewart, you didn't hear nothing out of. But it was around this time when they went back green flag racing, Darrell Waltrip coined the phrase co-opetition.
Which is a very wise word in racing.
It was actually dubbed in this race, you're basically racing with your teammate, or you're working with your teammate, co-opetition. However, later in the year, and it actually stayed, for a few years, the co-opetition actually meant working with a competitor or cooperating with the competition in order to benefit yourself. And I actually really love that. Like you said, it goes really good with racing.
Yeah, I feel like it's the perfect word for what those guys were doing out there.
So we have the restart, and it's, like I said, it's your typical super speedway restart. But then a little ways in, Dale Jr. is behind Tony Stewart. And if there's two guys that I say work the best together in the history of auto racing when it comes to super speedways, it was Dale Jr. and Tony Stewart.
Yeah, you would always see those guys bump drafting each other, pushing each other to the lead, and watching them at Talladega last week when we were covering the 2001 race. Watching them compete was really cool to see. But yeah, they it looked like Junior almost got into him definitely, and Tony Stewart got on the outside. And who did he rub with? Was it?
It was Casey Mears. So when Junior bumps him, Stewart goes up and he bumps into Casey Mears. It wasn't. I think he was worried about the tire rub. Casey Mears was. Ended up not being that big of an issue. But they definitely was trying to move their way up. This is when Junior said that his car was junk. And it was right after he said his car was junk. He starts moving within just about 5 laps. And again, this ain't your typical super speedway that you see nowadays where you can go from, 30th to 10th in a matter of 2 laps. I mean, you had to work, and you had to know how to work the draft. And that's what Junior was doing. But he went from 15th to, I want to say within that top 10 position within just about a lap and a half. Yeah. And this is when he's working with Tony Stewart, and those two just worked great together. Mm-hmm. But now comes the green flag pit stops.
Yeah.
And I mean, you would have thought every car pulling into pit road was wrecking, because I mean, all you see is just a big cloud of smoke, and every single car is slamming on their brakes, trying to get down to 50 miles an hour, trying to get single file, trying not to bump into each other. And they're literally trusting the person in front of them more than they trust themselves at that point.
Yeah. And watching Brian Vickers slide into the infield grass was pretty, and that took him out of the race, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah, he broke his axle.
But yeah, those guys it was pretty cool to see him sliding in and, brakes locking up. But yeah, it was pretty neat to see.
And then, they're starting to warn people about it over the radios, coming in and all. And the next group of pit stops see the same thing.
Yep.
I mean, you start seeing smoke in the air. I mean, it was just, I'm telling you, NASCAR was just a different animal back then.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was incredible. So the pit stops happen, and of course, like I said, Brian Vickers, he stays on pit road. He's having issues. But the funniest part of the whole race, the most hilarious part, was Jimmy Johnson's pit stop. Had an incredible pit stop.
Oh,
they didn't even show the pit times, I don't think. But as you're seeing people driving off, one of his pit crew members, he's excited and everything. And cars are driving by. He's like,
He was proud of it for sure.
You know, you've seen the movie Twister.
Yeah.
There was a part, the character Dusty, they had found this tornado and everything, and they got caught up in it. And the other guy, his name was Jonas. His crew, the rich people, they're going by, and this Dusty guy, he's going, losers!
Yes, I remember that part.
Losers! Move on! And that's literally what that looked like.
Yeah, it did.
That was losers! And come to find out, that's actually what would turn that into. Everybody else was losers because Ryan Newman took 2 tires and he got way ahead, which is you're a sitting duck at Talladega and Daytona.
Yeah. I've seen that this year.
Yes, you did. And you get out too far by yourself. Well, Ryan Newman takes 2 tires and he's way ahead. Jimmy Johnson, he gets out of pit road, has a great pit stop. Greg Biffle, who had dominated the entire race, this is where he finally lost it.
And him losing, like he definitely fought back to try to get.
He sure did.
To the front, but unfortunately wasn't able to do it.
I'm a NASCAR cat.
I do. That sounds.
I've had this since the mid 2000s, so I couldn't even plug anybody on this one because I don't know where it came from. But yeah, so Greg Biffle, he falls back to 5th. Junior, he's coming up through the field. Him and Tony Stewart hook up. They work together.
Yep.
And then Jeff Gordon found his way up to the front. And Kurt Busch is, so right now in the top 4, you have Jimmy Johnson first, you have Greg Biffle second, you have Kurt Busch third, and you have Jeff Gordon 4th. And everybody was so determined to keep that 24 and that 48 from hooking up with each other.
Well, I mean, they knew they're teammates and they're great drivers, so they're gonna. Once those guys get the lead, it reminded me of the Penske guys at Talladega.
Yeah,
Joey Logano and Ryan Blaney. When those two got together, I mean, there's just no stopping them.
Oh yeah, and that's what the Hendrick guys back then, especially Gordon and Johnson, was like what you see the Penske guys nowadays. Yeah. I mean, they got together, especially those two. I mean, it was almost like twins on the racetrack. It was pretty cool how they worked together. Greg Biffle's going to try to make a couple runs. It ain't going to work. Ryan Newman's going to quickly fall back due to the 2 tires versus everybody else's 4 tires. Then on the last lap, Tony Stewart's going to get a good bump from Dale Jr. Jeff Gordon's going to try to finish 1 and 2 to make Hendrick go 1 and 2. That didn't work out. And Jimmy Johnson is going to hold on to the victory. He's going to take it, and he's going to win his first Budweiser Shootout and get a great start to the 2005 season.
Yeah, Johnson definitely came back to, rule the race. I mean, I hate Greg Biffle didn't get it because you have a driver that, leads that many laps and then they just, fall off. Biffle finished 5th in this race though, but yeah, it was a pretty good race.
It ended up being in 6th place, Kurt Busch, Dale Jr. finished 7th, Mark Martin 8th, Casey came 9th, and Bobby Labonte 10th. Joe Nemechek was 11th, Ricky Rudd 12th, Casey Mears 13th, Rusty Wallace in his Rusty's Last Call car 14th, and Dale Jarrett 15th. And of course, rounding out your top 5
was, second was Ryan Newman, 3rd, Jeff Gordon, Tony Stewart 4th, and then Greg Biffle was 5th.
And Bill Elliott fell just outside the top 15, but even the first segment, the first 20 laps, Bill Elliott ran in the top 5 that whole time. That car,
that car was pretty strong.
Actually, that car was the car that Sterling Marlin had ran in the Daytona 500 the year before.
Oh yeah, I forgot this.
Had the same chassis and everything.
It's really cool.
That is really cool. So definitely had a good car to kind of rely on. And this was also the first race where Dodge brought the Charger into NASCAR.
Yeah, and they had a great run, I felt like, throughout the race. But
yeah, just couldn't pull it off there at the end.
They couldn't.
So, well, speaking of the end, this is going to be the end of this podcast. I hope y'all stuck around for it. Not as long as our typical ones, but we're still trying to test the waters. I would love to hear some feedback from you guys just to kind of see where you guys are enjoying the podcast. What would you like to see? What would you like us to cover? what would you like to see for us to upgrade the show? We're still trying to get the ball rolling and everything. I posted a video of Bobby Labonte's flip from Talladega last week, and that thing has hit over 24,000 views. So I'm very thankful for that, and I hope y'all enjoy that. And I know that's what y'all want to see is some more live action stuff from the race, and I just got to be really careful with copyright and things like that. But as far as this race, what are you going to say? Thumbs up, thumbs down, thumbs in the middle?
Thumbs up. I enjoyed it.
I'm gonna give it a thumbs in the middle. I think it was good. Of course, NASCAR during this time frame, NASCAR was experimenting kind of like they are now, with just different rule packages and then trying different things. Of course, Dodge, moving the Charger over, and things of that nature. It was definitely a good race. Wasn't the most exciting race, but being able to see Bill Elliott make a good run and seeing some strategic things right there, but in this era, especially looking back, and of course, we're nostalgic and I'm biased, but looking back, it's hard to find a bad race during this time. I mean, there were boring races.
The cars were just fun to drive, especially for the drivers, but fans, drivers, and all the extra things in your races was just a huge attraction. So,
yep. Well, I'm going to wrap it up on this one, and I'm going to go find something that's a good attraction, and that's some more coffee. So I'm looking forward to it. But until next week, you be good.
You be better.
And you be best, and we'll catch you on the next one here at Speedway Nostalgia. Thanks for watching.